everyone. Welcome to another episode of In Conversation by Advisor Coach. Today in conversation, our guest once again is Mr. Pratik Oswal, Chief of Passive Business with Motilal Oswal Mutual Fund. Welcome, Pratik, to In Conversation by Advisor Coach today.
Hi. Thanks for inviting me. Looking forward to this conversation.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. So, Pratik, Motilal Oswal Mutual Fund has launched their Motilal Oswal Nifty 500 Momentum 50 Index Fund on 4th of September and closing on the 18th of September 24. So, could you tell our viewers the concept around choosing the 50 stocks amongst the 500 stocks? Has there been a back testing been done? If so, what has been the results been? And what's the concept around it, how it will operate?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you said, we are launching this NFO that invests in a factor-based fund. So, essentially, this fund is an index fund. It's a passively managed fund where our job as an AMC is to replicate the benchmark. Here, the benchmark is Nifty 500 Momentum 50 Index. So, essentially, it's an index that tracks it's a 50 stock portfolio in the universe of the Nifty 500, which is large, mid, and small. And we're essentially tracking the 50 stocks that have the highest price momentum in this universe. So essentially, as an investor, you're investing in a strategy that is tracking momentum. And what is momentum? Momentum is essentially a strategy where you are essentially picking up stocks based on their price performance. So the 50 stock portfolio that you're buying in are essentially the 50 stocks that have run up the most in the last, 6 to 12 months time. This is adjusted for volatility, very important. And then you essentially are buying this 50 stock portfolio for your, as you're investing. So it's it's a factor fund, which we believe has done the best. So in India, you have many factor funds. You have momentum, low vol, quality, value. And we believe that momentum as a strategy has performed extremely well in market conditions. If you see the track record of this fund that spans since April 2005, it is a strategy which has outperformed all other strategies in India. So that's essentially what this fund is all about. The reason we believe that momentum works very well in India as well as in other markets and other asset classes is because we believe that people or investors tend to underreact to short-term information and overreact to long-term information. What does that mean? That means that when a company does well, people tend to not take it seriously. But if the same company does well for 2.5 years time, that's when investors start taking it seriously and buying the stocks. For example, a lot of people are buying PSUs today. They're buying defense stocks after it has run up for 3 years, whereas a momentum fund would have bought it a long time back. So, and because you're holding a portfolio of 50 stocks, it doesn't really matter if you picked out 1 or 2 bad stocks. You're holding a portfolio. So essentially, we believe that if you hold a portfolio which is done well, it does very well. The second thing which is very important in this portfolio is that today as equity market investors, especially mutual funds, you are exposed towards fund managers. And all fund managers have a different, distinct style.
Absolutely.
Some might be value driven, some might be quality driven, some might be growth driven, some might be very stability driven. They want to buy stable stocks. Momentum is a very unique strategy where you're essentially buying whatever works. So if quality is working, momentum will latch on to quality. If growth works, momentum will latch on to growth. Value has done very well in the last 4 years. Momentum has been a value fund. So you're essentially buying a style agnostic fund, which really replicates or does whatever is working in the market, which is why we believe it's a very good fund to have in your portfolio because can't really predict what will do well in the next 5 years time, but through momentum strategy, you'll ensure that you invest in the winners, through the strategy.
Sure. So when any backtesting was done, what was the result output?
Yeah, so basically, if you look at this fund, the performance of this fund is quite crazy. So it's outperformed the Nifty by about 10 to 12% annually over the last 10 to 15 years time. So the Nifty, I think, since inception of this index has done roughly around 15%. And I think this fund has delivered about 25.5%. So I think as a strategy, it's delivered very, very good results. I think we've done a study where we've compared this index with all funds in India. And we've seen over a 10-year period, it's beaten every single fund in India. Over a 5-year period, I think maybe 3 or 4 funds have beaten it. And what's very important is that this is not a sector fund, it's not a thematic fund. This is a very flexi cap type of a fund, where your money will be distributed across large, mid, and small caps in a very, very even way. So, for a flexi cap, multi cap sort of a scheme, to be able to deliver the sort of outperformance and performance is very unique. And I think that's what the value add for this fund is. Even your SIP returns have been close to 27-28% over the last 15 years. So obviously, I think investors looking at returns should expect some sort of outperformance over the
Sure.
index. But I think obviously, I think having expectations as high as what has been the past, may or may not happen. But still, I think we believe this strategy will do well in the future.
Sure. So this will have a diversity in the sectors, of course, because quite a flexible nature of the product being. So what about the market shifts? If you could just talk about how the market shifts will be there in
Yeah.
this fund, and will it be any sort of sector heavy?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So as I said, this is a style agnostic fund. So whatever is working is going to be latched on to. This is also a cap agnostic fund.
Okay.
So whenever small caps do well, small cap exposure goes up. Whenever large caps do well, large cap exposure. For example, in December of last year, the portfolio was 35% small caps, another 40% mid caps, 25% large caps. Just in 6 months, this has changed towards less than 5% small caps. Because as you've seen this year, large caps have sort of come back in flavor.
Yeah.
So, it's a very excellent flexi cap, multi cap type of a strategy where it really style agnostic, but also cap agnostic. So ultimately, wherever the returns are in the market, this fund will find it and it will invest in them. So that's one very important. It's also, as you said, a sector agnostic fund. In fact, it's not sector agnostic. It is essentially, a fund which catches on to sector rotation very, very efficiently.
Sure.
So if you look at the sector profile today versus 6 months ago versus 2 years back, it will be completely different. There will be no, there will be no similarity between the sectors. So, for example, and it changes and it gets sector rotation very right. So, for example, in 2020, when I think healthcare was doing well because of COVID, this index had a 40% exposure towards healthcare.
Right.
Next year, if you remember, commodities, oil and gas did well because the market was recovering, world was coming back from COVID. Oil and gas commodities did really well, and this fund had a huge exposure towards oil and gas. So I think 2022 financial services rallied this index. So it really gets sector rotation right. This year, as if you see, industrials, capital goods have done extremely well. Manufacturing companies have done very well. So this is an overweight in this index today.
True.
So what's important is that what is the index today doesn't matter. What really matters is it will keep in style, keep in shape, and also keep the right sectors because things keep evolving. What we've seen is that Indian markets tend to be the cycles that we've seen have become a lot shorter than it used to be 5-6 years ago. And I think this is a good fund which tracks all these cycles and makes sure that you're participating in whatever cycle is doing well.
Wonderful. This kind of fund actually gives everything what an investor needs from a medium to a long-term investment.
I mean, it's a very unique strategy. If you look at factor investing, it's actually very, very large in India. In fact, when we launched 8 factor funds. We have the largest number of factor funds in the country. This is our 9th fund that we're launching. And when we launched factor funds in 21 or 2021, the overall size of factor funds was under 500 crores. If you include not even 500 crore. If you look at all factor funds combined, I think it was roughly around about 1,000 crore.
Yeah.
Today that number is up to 35,000 crore. So
35,000.
5x in about 3 years. That's how much factor funds have grown, and we believe this can become 10x in the next 4-5 years. Compare this to US. US factor funds is the second biggest category in the world. In the US, which is technically the world also. So you're looking at broad-based funds like S&P, NASDAQ, which are the largest. Second biggest category is factor funds. Approximately $4 trillion is invested in factor funds. So again, it's a very large industry, very large category, and we're seeing a lot of interest coming in these funds in India today. And I think momentum as a strategy has been the standout when it comes to factor funds.
Sure. So as the leaders keep changing in the market, they keep rotating. So what's going to be the rebalancing time period for this fund?
Yeah, so basically, how is this fund structured? Let me talk about methodology. So essentially, the fund basically picks 50 stocks out of the 500 universe, and these 50 are weighted in such a way that the larger companies have slightly larger,
Weights.
holdings or weightages. The smaller companies, if they have a say weight of say 0.5% of the Nifty 500, then this index will give you a maximum 5 times. So you get capped at 2.5%. So this is to ensure that we are not running a pure small cap fund or a small mid cap fund. It's a very balanced exposure towards large, mid, smalls,
Sure.
and it's rebalanced about twice a year in June and December. So you'll see a lot of churn happening in June and December. As I said, cycles have become a lot shorter.
Mhm.
So you'll see about maybe 40 to 60% churn every rebalance. So that's something you should sort of look out for, where almost the entire portfolio will change over a year's time, which I think is unique.
Sure.
I think it's very hard to find a strategy in India where you see a complete new number of the 50 stocks that you see in a portfolio. The 50 stocks today versus last year, there's almost no similarity.
No overlap.
Yeah, not much overlap. There's some overlap, but not
Yeah.
much. So that's why. So which is why it's very fast moving strategy, and that's
Yeah.
why it's to catch on to winners.
Yeah.
The winners keep changing.
Winners keep rotating. Absolutely. So what message, Pratik, you would like to give to the mutual fund distributors, the advisors, the investors, more particularly for your new fund offer?
Yeah. So basically, I think the question I keep getting is what type of customer is this fund for, and what sort of risk profile is it? I think, momentum sounds very exciting and risky, but we believe that momentum is a very flexi cap multi. So anyone who's able to invest in a flexi cap, multi cap sort of a scheme is the right risk profile for this fund. So that's the target demographic, and we believe that because this fund is so style agnostic, fund managers, sorry, your asset managers, distributors don't have to worry about about if something is in favor or not. There's a lot of things where some things are in flavor at some time and it's not a flavor. You'll always be buying a fund where most stocks are in flavor. And I think what we believe is that the capability of this fund to outperform is also there, looking from global standards. So you're getting a fund which is, it's passive. So, I think that's one benefit. Second is that its performance is good. Third is that, it's a portfolio where you can see yourself holding for a very long time. And, as I said, this is sort of a fund where you can look at making a large allocation. Unlike say a sector thematic where obviously it's a very niche opportunity, we believe is a large opportunity.
Sure. Wonderful. So for our viewers, this is Mr. Pratik Oswal, Chief of Passive Business with Motilal Oswal Mutual Fund, talking about the new fund offer, Motilal Oswal Nifty 500 Momentum 50 Index Fund, which got launched on 4th of September and closing on 18th of September. So thank you very much, Pratik, for taking out time while the info is going out from your busy schedule and telling our viewers, a lot of insight about this particular fund. So we wish you the very, very best for this NFO. And also from the team Advisor Coach, congratulations for touching, a 1 lakh crore of AUM critical mark.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate the wishes. Thank you, team Advisor Coach. I really appreciate it. And, obviously, our job is to really make sure that people create wealth. And
absolutely,
as long as we're able to do that in a scalable way, that is really what matters to us. So
absolutely,
hopefully we'll continue, creating wealth for people. And
absolutely, like they say, brilliance is always rewarded.
Yeah. I think for us, to be honest, stories of wealth creation is what drives and motivates us.
Absolutely.
We believe that to be able to really be wealthy, I think it's very important to own something. And I think equity as an asset class has done the best and will do the best in the future. And if you're able to partner up with asset managers who've done a good job in creating wealth, then I think hopefully you'll be able to, become financially free. So that's our goal, and hopefully we'll help as many people as we can.
Our very best wishes for the future as well. And thank you once again, Pratik, for joining in for this call today and sharing your insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.